All right. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another session. Dorsey's Resource. First, before we get started, I'd like to give a disclaimer. The opinions expressed in the following video do not necessarily reflect the views of other individuals and organizations affiliated or not affiliated with the content creator. The point of views and purpose of this video is not to bully or harass anybody, but rather share that opinion and thoughts with other like-minded individuals curious about the subject. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Now, the title of this video is going to be in this section, Hidden Adhesion Contracts and Legal Terms, Part 2. I intend to go over this element. I might touch on this. Want to let you guys know I have a plethora of information to go over. So just bear with me. This is going to be like a condensed version. I've opened up a lot of documents that I have. I might have to actually do a separate video to go more into detail about specific areas because a lot of people that ask me when they start study or learn about this redemption information. First, I want to say this information is very real. You have nowadays, because of the advent of the internet, YouTube has grown, gotten a lot larger. There's also a lot of gatekeepers and shields on here and naysayers who will tell you otherwise that this information is invalid. And I'm here to tell you, no, there's a real side to this information. Just like anything in life that people can join or enter into contract wise, you have to do your own research and make your own assessment. And in terms, if you decide to contract with someone and give them money for a service that you believe in, it's important to investigate and research. And what I intend to do in this video is to provide credibility, also to show that this redemption information is real, very real. And when I got involved in this many years ago, I told some of these stories briefly in some of my previous videos, tits and pieces. I did a lot of reading, but I just wanted to go over, this is going to be like a condensed video. Like I said, to reiterate, when it comes to certain categories of the information that I go over, it can get very in depth. And for the purposes of time, I'm going to try to, I'm not going to read everything, but certain components. So with the title of this video dealing with hidden adhesion contracts and legal terms, I want to start from this section where we're going to read, okay, right about this section, this part. To force you to waive your right, you will not be issued a driver's license unless you apply for the license. Okay. By doing so, it said that if you voluntarily waive your right and converted it to a privilege, this information is maybe a little bit too heavy, but you guys can read. You can see the document from the screen capture that I'm doing. I'm not going to really delve into the driver's license aspect because I think that's a little bit too in depth for some newbies out there. So like as this section says right here, more on the driver's license issue later. But for now, be it enough said that any license, I repeat, any license to do anything regulated by the government at any level that is forced by statute or regulation is an adhesion contract. See, this is an actual document. This is, you guys can see the definition is in bold. It says is an invisible contract and creates jurisdiction over the person in certain matters over the subject matter depending upon what license was issued. And I'll say what type of license in particular, because I'm going to scroll down to kind of give you guys an idea. But this video is also like a part two of the previous video that I've done. Adhesion contract, distinctive feature of adhesion contract is that the weaker party has no realistic choice as to its terms. Black's Law Dictionary 5th edition. See, it's giving you an actual legal term. The acceptance of benefits offered. These are also called benefit privileges. benefits offered by the government. A juristic corporate institution is the grand finale of events that causes one to be liable for paying taxes, since the acceptance of these benefits creates a contract. Okay, I'm gonna scroll down some things I'm not gonna delve really deep into, but I've got some things on standby, some notes for you guys. Um, actually, so as I'm scrolling down, I'm gonna go to this section right in this area. It says the following is a partial list of most of the entrapments that bind us to the contracts I've mentioned. For this is in relation to the person or group who wrote this article. It states use of Federal Reserve notes, private insurance programs, Social Security, marriage license, bank accounts, engaging in interstate commerce, vehicle registration, utilizing commercial notes, voter registration, which you guys have heard me mention in the past and even in the previous video, use of credit, birth certificate, involvement in the Uniform Commercial Code, driver's license, and citizenship. And I would also go as far as to say military DD-214 papers as well, barber license, fishing license, beautician licenses. The list can go on, medical licenses, nursing licenses. And this document, just to let you guys know, goes into the definitions. By the way, I'm just going to scroll through briefly. I'm not going to read the whole entire document because we're limited for time. I'm going to connect the dots and basically build you up and from the legal aspect, so you all will see the evidence and understand as well. This is dealing with private insurance, the different types of insurances that things break down into different types of insurance that people need. So I'm just scrolling through very quickly, going down, see if I can get to the section of the one part in particular. I think dealing with, I want to reread dealing with the voter registration. I might not need to really necessarily go over that again because I went over it in a previous video. But oh, here it is. I did want to go over marriage license in particular. The marriage license is a contract. As such, it represents a limited partnership with the state being the superior third party. The state is a third party intervener, which in real terms means the contract cannot be dissolved without permission from the state. See, this is giving you actual definition and breaking down the type of contract that this represents. It said it also represents a contract over time for profit and gain where the state has an interest in the children of the contract as represented by the benefit programs such as food stamps, cash assistance, medical assistance, aid to dependent children, etc. To give a better breakdown, an elder was telling me some years ago, while there's a high risk for men who decide to get married, Michigan, for example, he was stating is a community property state. And he was telling me a story. He didn't want me to say the name, but there was a famous rapper father that he worked with. There was the father of this famous rapper. He stated to me, told me the story, had gotten married some years ago, married a woman, and they had got divorced. And he adopted, I guess, through marriage. Don't quote me on this, but let's say if you don't have any children, but let's say for the fellas out there, for example, and this could apply vice versa too for a woman, that if the guy, if he marries a woman and she has children already, that because of marriage you have to adopt those children if they are not illegally 18 years old, from what I understand. I don't know all the details, but however, that pulls you into an adhesion contract. And what's also going on, this document may not mention this, but I learned this from a private seminar I attended some years ago, that one of the individuals from the private sector was mentioning that when two people get married, that's when both legal persons, corporations actually merge with each other. Similar to a corporate merger, like when Daimler Chrysler, when they originally merged together. Now they become turned into one entity, Fiat, but when they became Daimler Chrysler, and then nowadays you have women who add on their maiden name with their married name. It's like to combine, but understand a marriage is a contract. And I'm going to read this part. The marriage license is an adhesion contract because most people are unaware or uninformed, fraud due to failure to disclose. As part of due process of law, there's people should be made more aware of these things or take responsibility upon to find out the consequences and obligations of being a voluntary party in this three-party adhesion contract. They run right down to the county clerk's office, pluck down their money, and then later can't figure out, yeah, because a lot of people it's become like a fad in a way through peer pressure too, by the way. So I won't, it's additional information I won't touch on. I'm going to go to this document over here that deals with capitis diminutio minima. As you see, says a minimum loss of status through the use of capitalization. Surrey jurors, this is an important term to learn. Now, these documents, I'm just skimming through. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But as you guys can see from the screen capture, what I do like about the screen capture versus, the videos where I mention that I do the vlogs, you guys can actually see elements and you can read through if I'm not, scrolling as fast. But this particular section I'm scrolling down to deals with capitis diminutio maxima. Now, it was stated that a certain individual said that they no longer use this anymore. I want to say that's inaccurate. The court system, the judicial system, there is a relation. There's a lot of information that I have compiled. As you guys can see, all of these notes on my desktop from different documents that I've pulled up that you have to read through to understand. But this part, capitis diminutio maxima, deals with the maximum loss of status through the use of capitalization, like you see with the all caps name that known as the straw man. It said the highest or most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage when he became a slave. And I would say she, or anyone individual. It swept away all rights of citizenship and all family rights. This is Latin, diminutio Latin. It says in civil law, diminution, a taking away, loss, or deprivation. You see, and then it says, as Black's Law Dictionary explains, the full capitalization of the letters of one's natural name, capitanum, results in a diminishing or complete loss of legal or citizenship status, wherein one actually becomes a slave. Now, understand what this document is going into is legally. This is referring to, and it's got different references in here to the Black's Law Dictionary, which is a dictionary that lawyers, people who are studying to become lawyers, to pass the bar exam, there's updated versions nowadays. I hear they have an abridged version uh, because they're trying to rush people through. They recognize nowadays not as many people do as much reading, and some of these types of cases, certain types of cases, are not heard where they don't want to spend a lot of time in the court system going over some of this information, so they condense the information. A friend of mine was telling me, because he knows someone in particular that even went to school to be for training for to be a judge, and she told him about the abridged version, just to let you guys know. But this, as you see, it has some more definitions in here, and I can go over artificial persons later. You see the all caps in here, of course. It's given an explanation. It says, of course, most natural persons wouldn't willingly form such an all unlawful but legally reductionist joinder. So trickery, obfuscation are used. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing these some of these terms correctly. However, when I read the other documents, it is going to provide clarification with some of the points and what I'm building you all up to. There's a lot of information. I have a lot of notes pulled up, by the way. So this is kind of a freestyle too, in a way. Okay, that's the disclaimer. Okay, I'm going to read this part. It says in law, everything starts with an administrative process. For those who can't afford or don't need an expensive attorney, we have a wide variety of templates ready to download. Okay, I guess that's referring to the site that I copied and pasted this from. It says, do you think the current body politic is corrupt? Want to remove your consent from voluntarily being classified further as a 14th Amendment citizen. Well, this is one of the many contracts you must undo to start getting our freedom back from the corporate system. Now, some of you all might not understand that this document is saying a lot. This is a jewel right here that I'm actually reading from, this particular document in particular. This information is sort of like encrypted in a way. It says all codes and statutes in the body politic of the United States is prima facie, meaning it only applies to you if you consent that it applies to you. However, saying I do not consent is not enough. One maxim of law, if it's not written down, it never happened. You must remove your consent on paper in a specific lawful way and have documentation of it. I remember I just saw Hellraiser mention this in a video not too long ago. And that's very, very credible with this, paragraph that I just read, this small portion just went over, that you have to remove yourself from the contracts, that it's not just verbally, but there's other things. I'm giving you all some Jews because a lot of people ask me, they say, hey, Dorsey, where do I start from? I'm going over, this is like basic information. Some of these documents I read many years ago from a lot of websites that used to be up. They are no longer up. Some of them, they're not as easily able to be found anymore, and some of them may have worded the information differently, but I did read a lot of documents to give me a better understanding of this information. Now we're going to move on. I'm looking for okay, we're going to go online. Don't know if I'm going to read from this map. I'm going to go to Anna Von Rich. And I want to let you know there's a particular gatekeeper out there. Some of you all may be familiar. They stated she's been called a government shield, this, that, and the other. I want to tell you this Anna Von Rich, who you see in this picture, this is not who I'm talking about. Her information is credible. I've read different documents from her, Judge Dale. It's highly accurate, contrary to popular belief. A lot of people don't understand this information. It's not a silver bullet. By the way, this is not a one size fits all. And I want to say for and on the record that up to this point, I have never sold TDA packages. I do not have a GoFundMe account on this channel. You can look at all my previous videos. The only type of revenue that I received is the AdSense, and YouTube has drastically through the censorship reduced a lot of people, not just my channel, but other people's ad revenue from the new algorithms. So, you got to ask the question, why would they be doing that? But a certain shield out there and gatekeeper, I would say, likes to say a lot of bad stuff about Anna Von Rich, who in this guess this is her in this picture. I've never met her before personally, but I can confirm from reading the documents that the information that she speaks about is very credible, just as like Gene Keating and many other people that have come down the line that have shared this information. I'm going to scroll down to this section that says citizens of the United States being referenced are the same 14th Amendment citizens of the United States referenced in the territorial corporate constitution adopted in 1868, the Constitution of the United States of America. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to skip that part. I'm going to scroll down some more, and I'm going to try to go over some other areas I think is critical. But the reason I pulled this document up, mainly here it is it says either way, the fact that these are people being addressed throughout the Trading with the Enemy Act is made explicit by the consent reference to the United States and less frequently the United States of America. So reason, pay attention to this Trading with the Enemy Act. There was a Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917 that also had another meaning to it, and it applied kind of giving you guys, some of you all who are advanced may be already aware of what I'm going over, by the way. It says, in this act in any way reference the American people or the state citizens of this country, the act would reference the United States and state citizens. It doesn't, so we may safely presume that it has nothing whatsoever to do with us ex except to exempt us as it does under Title 50, Section 7. Okay, I don't want to get you guys too caught up in the legal jargon, but I just want to keep this basic. So it says, so all presumptions against us, against our vessels in commerce, should we have any against our vessels in international trade, we should we be engaged in any such activity are exempt, prepaid, not subject to seizure. Okay, it's a reason. Let me find there's the definitions I pulled up. Here we go. Here's one of them. I pulled up several so you guys will see online. These are actual this is actual definition out of the United States Code. It's an actual term. This is Title 9 of the Title 18, Section 9 of the United States Codes. It says the term vessel of the United States as used in this title means a vessel belonging in whole or in part to the United States. And here's a key section, or any citizen thereof, or any corporation created by or under the laws of the United States, or any territory, district, or possession thereof. I'm going to read this again from another website that's different. Vessel of the United States. Defined. The term vessel of the United States as used in this title means a vessel belonging in whole or in part to the United States or any citizen thereof. Notice key word, key section in here. It says, highlight that, any citizen thereof or any corporation created by or under the laws of the United States or any state, territory, district, or possession thereof. Now let me go to this area over here really quick. Title 28, Section 3002 of the United States Codes. And to remind you guys, I did give a disclaimer, the fair use, so this is not legal advice. I'm just sharing with you from my research what I found. But if you read this part, it says, see the United States Code, Title 28, Section 3002, subsection 15, in parentheses right here, where it stated unequivocally that the United States is a corporation. I won't read that part, but we're going to go to Cornell Law School. It's part of their website, cornelllaw.edu. I've already scrolled down. We're going to go to the top. You see, this is Title 28 from what I just read, Section 3002. We're going to scroll down. Oh, here's a key area. But before, notice where it says person includes a natural person, including an individual, Indian, a corporation, a partnership, unincorporated association, a trust or a state, or any other public or private entity, including a state or local government or an Indian tribe. Let me scroll down. This is the key section I wanted to read right here. Subsection 15. See this area where I got the mouse pointed over? You can see the hand arrow. It says United States means, Section a federal corporation. Let me highlight this because there's a certain individual gatekeeper I was watching in her videos that said that this is just a myth, this is just made up. I'm showing solidified, credible, reputable evidence that this is factual. What I'm going over, I have genuine evidence as to material facts that this cannot be denied. And notice when I read prior, it said in several of these definitions, when you type in, you see I typed it in the search engine, it said unequivocally the United States is a corporation. It's referencing to this section. Now when I go to the law, it tells you when you go down to subsection 15, it states in this area right here, let me highlight it, section A, subsection a federal corporation. Then section B, an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States. Other entity, that's key. That's critical right there. What could other entities be? You have to ask that question. You have to reread these definitions. What could other types of entities be, or sub-entities? Think about that. Think about what I just read dealing with the Trading with the Enemy Act, a little bit of what Anna Von Ritz had to say. Notice what Section C says. Notice how it's giving different definitions, but it's clarifying a point that it's making. It's saying an instrumentality of the United States. Look up the definition of instrumentality. Notice this part says or other entity. There's key words here. You have to pay attention to that. Okay. Now, if I go to natural person, it says in jurisprudence, A natural person is a person in legal meaning one who has its own legal personality. That is an individual human being as opposed to a legal person. It says critical, as opposed to a legal person which may be private. Okay, we're going to go read this other definition. We're going to read natural person. You see, and I also suggest these terms that I'm looking up. So you guys don't take my word for what I'm saying. I'm so confident. I'm a little tired right now in this video. So, but I want to give you guys some hardcore information to absorb, to study, to soak in. And you may see other parts down the road, but I recommend you guys also look these terms up in the Black's Law Dictionary. If you have a fourth edition, sixth edition, it's good to look up the previous older versions as well, and even compare these terms to the Webster's Dictionary to show you there's a whole different set of terminology within the court system. It's a whole different structure. We're going to get back into this. The term natural person refers to a living human being with certain rights and responsibilities under the law. By contrast, a legal person or an artificial person is a group of people that is considered by law to be acting as an individual. Notice this part right here. It says both natural and legal persons are entitled to sue other parties and sign contracts. Ah, it's making a distinction between natural persons and legal persons. They can also be on the receiving end of a lawsuit. We scroll down again. An individual human being. There's another breakdown of definition of natural person with conscious of self. A human being, notice this part. This is critical, says as opposed to a legal person. A human being in this section 2 of this definition of natural person. A human being, I'm reading this again, as opposed to a legal person. It's making a separate distinction, which is an entity or group considered collectively as a single individual for legal purposes. For legal purposes. Oh, that's a key right there. Remember I told you that there's a difference legally, so when this shield, this gatekeeper out there who hasn't studied the law, that just runs off at the top of the mouth on her channel, just makes up propaganda and different things. I'm showing you guys the actual evidence. This is, so you guys have a point of reference to go to, by the way. Now here's the definition of another definition of legal person. It says a body of persons or an entity as a corporation considered as having many of the rights and responsibilities of a natural person, and especially notice this distinction and responsibilities of. When you see of, that means to be part of. Part of what? Of natural person. So it's drawing a distinction, and especially the capacity to sue and to be sued. Very similar to what I read earlier, but this is the specific definition of legal person. Now we go to with the straw man. Well, a lot of people think the all capital letters name because this individual will tell you that it's a scam. No, I'm here to tell you there's credibility, there's truth to it. It's just encrypted. This is the term they use within the judicial system. They use what is in lingus. It says Latin, a creature of the law, an artificial being as contrasted with a natural person. This applies to corporations. They turn your straw man into a legal person, which in the court system is also referred to as the in lingus. Remember what I read when you go back up to capitis diminutio maxima, and this individual tells you they don't use this anymore in one of her videos, but I'm just debunking this right now, and I'm showing you the documents. And if you look very closely, you can actually find these documents online and pull them up for free and read them and reference them, where it's giving you references to the Black's Law Dictionary. This is drawing the distinctions between the definition of artificial person, legal person, a natural person, but showing you that there's even a distinct differences with the legal capacity, how they use it within the court judicial system or whatnot. Here's artificial person, the definition. It states a legal entity that is not a human being, but for certain purposes is considered by virtue of statute to be a natural person. Considered by virtue of statute. That's key right here. To be a natural person, but the key is by virtue of statute. Then it goes on to say right below it, a corporation is considered an artificial person for service of process. We read another definition. It says artificial person in a figurative sense. A body of men or company are sometimes called an artificial person because the law associates them as one. That's what happens when I was kind of going over the marriage license contract earlier when both corporations merge. That's when both legal persons merge together with husband and wife, which husband, look up husband in the Black's Law Dictionary, which I went over in the previous video, is house bond. Husband, house bond. There's a play on the words as well to really pay attention to. But the marriage license, that particular adhesion contract, you have to pay attention to that and these terms and how they're related. Okay, I went over vessel of the United States, went over that. I'm getting tired, guys, just to let you guys know I have to head into the plantation this evening, but I want to have something overall action packed for you guys. I may, do a continuation down the road. This is kind of a continuation. This is a part two. I'm just reading bits and portions. I pulled up a lot of different documents and key terms. Wasn't sure if I was going to go over everything, but I'm looking for key points. What I did want to also mention, I wanted to go over for you guys, is talk a little bit about the finance and the banking as well. I want to scroll up this particular document. You can pull this up from the screen capture. You can pull up the actual website I'm reading this from. But it says some years back, believe it or not, I work in private security. There was a detective. He has a PI license, private investigator. He actually found this document online and sent it to me through email, I believe. I think I had to beg him. He showed me uh, or went over and I asked him where did he get the site from, and I begged him to email it to me or whatever. And this is an older document, as you can see. It says it's published in 1976, but I'm giving you guys a reference to show you that there's other people who have learned about this type of information, that I've received assistance and other people sharing information. So you guys don't perceive me that I'm a know-it-all. No, I do research, and I had other people who do assist, and part of researching is investigating, getting to the bottom for thorough information. But I don't want to spend too much time pontificating. It says this chart, for example, this is an actual chart, like a flow chart, breaks down some of the names in here. But I want to go over to debunk some of the myths. There's an area in here, the second sentence. It says chart one reveals the linear connection between the Rothschilds and the Bank of England and the London banking houses, which ultimately control the Federal Reserve banks through their stock holding of bank stock and their subsidiary firms in New York. The two principal Rothschild representatives in New York, J.P. Morgan Company and Kuhn, Loeb and Company, were the firms which set up Jekyll Island Conference, at which the Federal Reserve Act was drafted. Now that's where Edward G. Griffin talked about, and I want to tell you that once again, that particular gatekeeper, I'm debunking and showing you how she's lying. She did a video not too long ago. Edward G. Griffin said he was making this stuff up. His book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, the documentary that was done, there was even an audio. This is going over showing you the credible information, and this was relayed. This document was given to me by a former coworker. So to show credibility, that this part I just read said where the firms which were set up Jekyll Island Conference, at which the Federal Reserve Act was drafted up. They met in private many years ago. When you learn about the history, that's what Edward G. Griffin talked about. He was known for years ago in the movement, and that stuff. It's related to the redemption education, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's different variations to this type of information, and what that individual gatekeeper is also trying to do is trying to lump everybody into one particular category. You must understand, this is why I do give a disclaimer, and I encourage every individual to please do your research and homework and make your own assessment and evaluation. But you will see that I'm so confident in what I'm sharing with you, and by me doing the screen capture video, I'm showing you all evidence where you can find the site, and I recommend archive this, document it as well to hard drives, other technology you use. Make sure you fully examine this information, and this is showing you credibility. In this document, I'm going to scroll down. It's got different names of major families in banking and other industries. And if you go down further, it's got the names of corporations that are still around, like at the top, Chase Manhattan, some names of some people. Think about the names of building, General Motors in here. It's got Chrysler Corp in here. This flow chart. It's got AT&T in here. Actually, Fidelity. I wonder if that's, I can't say for sure if that's the same Fidelity. I wouldn't be surprised. That's related to Fidelity Investments. Look, Exxon Corporation. That's related to, the gas. They may make other products. You got life insurance and here. There's a connection. These are shareholders. So it's giving you kind of a point of reference. Wachovia, they were bought out some years ago by Wells Fargo. And I wonder why this individual gatekeeper that I bring up, aka possible shield, doesn't talk about how Wells Fargo used people's social security numbers and open accounts in people's names, which does way more harm and damage than so-called sovereign citizens could have done. Or why doesn't she talk about the data breaches that happened with Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, where they somehow allow people's social security numbers to come to leak out? Now, how is that? These are major corporations that have big money, big bucks. Remember, you had Target in the news one year. You had Best Buy. I don't find it a coincidence. Just think about, for example, play a little trivia with you guys, but think about which companies or entities hire the most computer programmers and people. It's just something to think about for a second. Because who has that type of time to hack into these corporations like that and steal and take people's valuable information? That takes a lot of resources and funding. Just something to think about. But this particular gatekeeper wants to spend her time so-called focusing on the SCs and that they're causing most of the trouble, but she doesn't talk about the big corporation entities that cause way more harm and damage to your everyday citizen. And it's just they get a slap on the wrist. I remember some years ago when Loretta Lynch was, I was watching a press conference when she was Attorney General. They were holding a press conference about the three or four major banks. No one of them was involving Chase. The other was Bank of America, and the other bank was HSBC. They had gotten fined billions of dollars. You guys can look up what it was. I don't remember offhand, but I did watch it. It was on national TV, television. This is a fact. Not making this up. But to them, that's just a slap on the wrist. Billions of dollars, and who's to say they pass that cost on to the consumers? When they pull these different shenanigans, they don't tell people what's the difference between interest-bearing and non-interest-bearing accounts. They encourage you to get interest-bearing accounts, which if you make over at least $10 or more in interest, they're supposed to send you the 1099 form, because there's like a big myth that that's supposed to be fake. No, I used to have an account with Bank of America some years ago, and even though I didn't reach the threshold of my interest account was not open that long to accrue that interest, because the banks at the basic level hardly pay any interest anymore. Many of you guys already know that, but they still sent the 1099 INT. That's a little small acronym for the interest form anyway, because there's this mythology out there that the 1099s are a scam. See, the IRS, it's other things I could go into. I'm not going to touch on that. But you all can read in between the lines and see where most of the fraud is coming from. And I'm going to go to, this leads me into the national debt clock, by the way. See, it's the national debt over 22 trillion. See, point the arrow right here. It says the debt per citizen is at 68,000, over that amount. And it gives more of a breakdown. You have the U.S. gross domestic product, the GDP. Now, if we scroll over to this section, which I talked about before in the previous video, you see, let's go to the dollar to silver ratio 1913. It says the dollar was worth silver was worth $2.64 per ounce. A silver, well, the dollar in comparison to silver today, 1 ounce a silver dollar is supposed to be worth $643 per ounce. Now this amount varies. The way this chart goes. We're gonna go back to 1913. This is the same year that the Federal Reserve Act was put into place, what I just got finished reading. Notice this part says $28.84 per ounce. So one gold coin per ounce was worth in US dollars $28.84. One ounce silver coin practically was worth $2.64 per ounce. Now, if you read today, this is now. We're saying keyword now, where I've got the arrow at dollar to gold ratio. Gold is supposed to be at $5,251 per ounce. Why is it not at that amount? If I go real quickly to coinflation, it is on its rise up just over 1,400. See, $1,420, and silver is at $15.33 an ounce. Now you can also go to Kitco. There's varying amounts that fluctuate, but not too big of a difference between the two. I believe the London bullion market sets the the market value rate. So don't quote me on it, guys. But I'm just showing you. This was shown to me by someone who's more knowledgeable, that wanted me to see how the dollar is losing its purchasing power. You know, how the dollar depreciates, you know, with rising inflation and costs. And then there's also manipulation from the powers that be. I'm connecting some dots for you guys. So we look once again to back in 1913, it was $2.64 per ounce for a silver coin. That was the value of the dollar in comparison. Today, for $1, well, 1 ounce silver coin, silver to dollar ratio, is supposed to be at 643 US dollars per ounce. This is what it's supposed to be today. Notice it's saying now, where it's got its highlighted in red. Then we go back once again. So I want to show you guys a couple times, because the gatekeepers and naysayers, the shills out there, will try to have you just make up stuff. And I'm showing you credible evidence through the screen capture. We're showing you where silver is at if you were to go back to trade back one silver coin at a coin shop. It's at $15.33. So you see the similarity? You see the point that I'm making? Okay, I know you guys get it. Okay, lastly, we see, want to go to, this is a map of the Federal Reserve, just to give you guys an idea. You want to get in a habit of looking at your the currency that we carry in our pockets. Okay, now I did give a disclaimer, so before I shut things down, I'm going to pull up. This says the same thing on dollar bills, but I just wanted to read this and pull this up so you guys can see in real time. Let's see how many minutes are we at now. We're at 42. Wow. So I'm going to get ready. Before I shut things down, notice it says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Notice, I'm going to read this again. It says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Why would it emphasize public and private? To debunking another myth, because a certain individual would tell you there's no such thing as the private sector, by the way. So I've dropped enough Jews already. I could go further on, guys. This is part 2. Dealing with the title of this video, Hidden Adhesion Contracts and Legal Terms, part 2. I want to thank you guys for joining me at Dorsey's Resource. If you want to follow me, I'm on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on YouTube at Dorsey's Resource. And of course, I'm on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the notification bell. YouTube will notify you in the upper right hand corner whenever I put out new content. And please give me a thumbs up. Appreciate you all out there. Thank you for watching. If you did take the time to watch, I appreciate you. Till next time, take care.